Hi Shubham. Hi Sunana.
Hey, hi. What's
I
up?
Good. Nothing much, usual stuff. How was the DFC team doing?
All good, yeah. Just hustling.
Nice.
Are you in India?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Been for a while. Yeah, it's been for a while.
Oh, okay.
Hi Ashita.
Hi, Phalgun.
Where are you, Sunana? Hyderabad?
Yes. I think I'll travel after our event.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Shubham?
am planning to travel around December.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, wow. December and you're already planning.
My sister lives in
So
London,
sweet.
so I'm planning to go to London.
Oh, nice. Are you gonna watch
Nice.
some
Yeah.
EPL?
Yeah. That's like
Did you
that
get
is the
tickets?
idea.
Oh wow, that's so cool. Did you get tickets?
No, I'll first get the visa thing done, which is like easy, and then I'll get the tickets.
Nice. Cool. Awesome.
Hi, Anya.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Phalgun, you're going to break the bias for me. For travel and work doesn't happen together at all. Either one happens at one time.
It's called the answer is discipline, Anya. You just don't have discipline.
Yeah, I can't work that out. It just doesn't feel like, either if I'm working, then I need that home environment at the table. And then if I'm out, then I'm out. And I don't want to work. Yeah, maybe, but then I think that matters more for shorter trips and then you have to take the
Yeah. So those were, that's actually a good point. I think I should touch upon it. Well, hello everyone. Just give us a few more minutes and 2 more minutes before that we'll start, I guess. So interestingly, this is the first ever time I'm talking about travel. But I made like a deck only today, like it's very small. It doesn't have like a lot of content. So hopefully we can also get like dinner early if it does end. Should we start?
Yeah, I think maybe if people want to join, they can join in.
Yeah. Sure.
Presenting.
Yeah. I have like a small deck. Cool. Okay. So like I said, honestly, I've never done this before. This is like my first time even writing about this and like doing it. So it's a very basic, bare bones deck or like a topic, to be honest. And I will tell you why I kept it intentionally light and surface level as like the slide progresses. But yeah, so just to start off, so travel is something I guess like everyone wants to do, and everyone has like their own opinions about it, has their own personal preferences about it. So this is, I wanted to like focus more on like the work bit when you're traveling more than like the travel bit itself, because yeah, because everyone literally has like their own opinions on it. So yes, it is. um Cool. So yeah, let me get into like the agenda on like what I'm going to talk about. Yeah, the first one is who am I? Like, I think that was like the only slide where I felt both cringe and like was very excited because I had to like look back on like all the stuff that I had done. We'll talk about like what it means to be a digital nomad, or like yeah, what it means to be a digital nomad. How is it different from like say a vacation and all of that? So the next one is like say tips and tricks and how to like get the most of like travel when you're working or like working when you're traveling, and some of the common mistakes that I have done, people I've seen people do. And the last one is what is this talk not about, is like I said, it's more about like working when you're traveling and not really about, hey, here are like the great places that you can go to, here are my recommendations, you should go here. It's not more on like the recommendations part, it's more on like the process of how do you work and travel. So anything else that you guys want to like want me to talk about? If there is, feel free to just like drop some stuff on like the chat, and
I think Phalgun, once we start, maybe more questions will come in.
Perfect.
I mean, Phalgun, very basic questions around like which is the best credit card to travel with.
Oh yeah, perfect. Okay,
yeah,
cool. Feel free to please keep dropping them in the chat window. I will come to them at the end. Those are good questions. Cool. All right. So first thing, this is like my travel resume of sorts. I started traveling fairly late in my life. My first ever flight was at the age of 23. It was to Delhi, and just because I was so late with like flights in my life, I really like flights. I really love flying, like the whole experience of like going to an airport and then like taking a flight. I feel very fancy. So that's one of my favorite experiences. So right after that, I started solo backpacking the year after that. And my claim to fame is that like when I first started solo backpacking, I actually had to use paper maps. There was no Uber. Google Maps did not have navigation. Google Maps did not work offline. Google Maps did not have, yeah, it didn't have navigation. There was no Uber, stuff like that. So I think right after that is when all of the apps came about and it made travel so much more easier. And first digital nomad experience was at like 25 when I took like a sabbatical, and I was like also consulting for like a few companies in India, stuff like that. So yeah, since then I've been around 500 days I've like spent on the road over like say the last 8 years. And I do a lot of hiking. I have visited like a bunch of countries, but India is still like my favorite country because honestly it's brilliant to travel. It's cheap, it has so much landscape, so much variety, food's amazing. And even as like an Indian, I get like culture shocks everywhere I go within India. So India is like is easily my top country to like travel. So yeah, this is why I am doing like this talk. And yeah, I think like my post-COVID travel experience has been very different from pre-COVID. Post-COVID is when like because of remote work, I've been like doing longer durations, longer trips to most of like the places. I seem to like them more, where I'm just like living like a regular life when I'm traveling rather than like say taking it as like a 1 week vacation. Instead, I want to see how I'll be living the usual stuff that I do when I'm at home in Bangalore. I want to do the same things when I'm like say traveling. So that's the kind that I've realized I enjoy a lot more. So I've been doing that now. And yeah, moving to the next one. Cool. So, but most importantly, yeah, this is like the thing, right? Like whatever I've done, it doesn't really matter. I strongly believe that travel is a very personal thing. You really shouldn't really look at like what others have done, or like what others are posting. I follow zero travel influencers on Instagram. I really strongly believe that like each person has like their own interests, own takes on what travel means to them, and what they want to get out of travel and all of that. So it's really important that you ask yourself what you want, and then like go ahead with it. For example, the reason I've traveled a lot is because of like a bunch of things that worked out for me since the beginning. I was fortunate to start making money when I was still in college, so that gave me like money to start traveling when I was in college. I was privileged enough that I could stay at home. I didn't have to pay rent, so my expenses were low. So I'd instead take my vacations not to home but away from home. So there's like a lot of luck, privilege, and a bunch of factors that are involved in like getting me here. So really, it doesn't really matter, right? Like each person carves their own story when it comes to travel, because it's like a very personal experience. So yeah. Now, with that huge disclaimer, is where I will get into what what being a digital nomad, or like what working while you're traveling is, and what it feels like. So like I said, at least being a digital nomad is that you're continuing to live the same life that you have, just that it's in a new place, right? So if you have interests like you're into singing, or like you're into music, or like if you're into any of these things, right? If you continue doing all of those things, even when you're traveling, is what really like a digital nomad is. So there are people who are staying in like places for like months together, where they're learning new things, but also like not losing sight of what they really are, while also like working. So it's just that they're trying to like live the same life in like different places. They just want to like be exposed to new challenges, new situations, and like all the experiences that travel bring. And that to me is like a digital nomad. It's not really like say a vacation, like a weekend or like 1 week or 2 weeks that you take, and then like go experience a new place. And there's nothing wrong in that. I'm not saying that's anything wrong with that, but being a digital nomad is usually more on like the living aspects of it, more than like the place that you're at. So, but yeah, like just like travel, being a digital nomad also allows you to meet people and like situations that you're not usually don't find yourself in. So which is what makes it really exciting and all of that. So the picture on the right is actually me having to take like a bus ride on top of a bus once, because that was like the last bus to the place that I wanted to go, and there was like no seats. So yeah, this again, like a very hacky backpacky experience, but yeah, this was what it's supposed to do. And cool. So going in, okay, any questions here on like digital nomads? Like, have people seen anything around digital nomads? Wait, let me check in comments. Cool. Okay. So yeah, moving on how did you actually start, right? So I think over the years, even like my process of finding a place to travel, or how do I prepare to go to a place, has changed. Just to give you an example, I think it's insanely easy now because of all the resources that we have at our disposal. When I started my first ever solo backpacking trip in like 2015, I'm not kidding, I spent 3 months just researching what all I should be doing. I did not know about hostels. I did not know what is the etiquette in hostels. I did not know what's the visa procedure. I did not know, like how to travel inside. Like, so this was to Europe. And if you have to apply, if you're familiar with Schengen visas, like you have to give your itinerary to the dot on where you're going every single day, right? So to do that, you need to know where you're going, because you also have to show your accommodations and like your hotel bookings and all of that. So it took me over 3 months. I would come back from work every day, sit down, research every single country. I had a book. I did not even have like a digital whole experience there. I was actually having like a notebook where I was writing down each stuff. And then I had to filter out what are like the different places that I want to go. And then I had to like figure out what is like the sequence of like the places that I want to go. And I had like 3 different variations. Like I drew out a calendar. I was traveling for 5 weeks. I drew out a calendar for 5 weeks. and I was like literally doing different permutations and combinations of, okay, if I go from place A to place B, what is better? Is it like, should I go from A to C instead, right? So now it's insanely easy. Like we're all very fortunate that there's so much resources available right now that we can get it very, very easily now. There are like handmade itineraries that exist. Like you can choose whether you want an itinerary for 2 weeks or 4 weeks. All of that is like readily available. So it becomes much more easier. So, but I still do tons of research before like going to any new place. My favorite ones are Reddit purely because Reddit is anonymous and people don't really like, do clickbaiting or like karma farming. They do sometimes, but it's basically internet points. It doesn't like give them anything, right? So that's the reason I kind of trust Reddit a little bit more than like the rest of the resources. And sites like Wikitravel have been existing for years now. I think so much that like people don't even visit Wikitravel as much these days, but Wikitravel is great just to get like a sense of what of the country, what's like the geographical, political situation, what's like the languages, what's like the religions there, stuff like that. Solo Guides is one of my favorite sites because it gives one key information about the places that you want to go to, which is how many days should you spend there, right? So it's like a really good indicator of like, okay, if I'm going to a new place, whether it's in India or outside India, anywhere, it kind of tells you that, okay, you might need to spend at least 4 days in Goa to really experience Goa, right? So Solo Guides is like really useful for that. The last one is Nomad List. This is a very digital nomad specific site. If you guys know about the founder, his name is Levels.io, like on Twitter. He's like a very popular indie hacker. He makes over $1 million per year just with his indie hacking projects. So he started Nomad List because he was a digital nomad who started around in 2013, 2014. He started traveling and he wanted information on like what are the different places that digital nomads can go, or like or anyone who wants to spend like enough like a considerable amount of time in like a new place. So he set up like this massive website of like information. Like for example, the screenshot on the right is actually a screen grab from Nomad List. So it has details on like the cost of living, the pros and cons of like a city, the reviews by other travelers, whether you can even meet other travelers who are in that city. So even has recommendations on what are the areas that you should be like staying at, stuff like that. So Nomad List is like a really good site to be like doing your research on whether you want to go somewhere or not. And yeah, so once the research is done, the next set of things are the ones that I usually like look at before finalizing on like the place. So for example, internet and mobile data is like number one because I'll still have to work, right? So I don't want to go to a place where there is no internet, which is usually say like the mountains or like say interiors of a desert, stuff like that. So I usually check what is like the internet situation. I do not research it online. I actually talk to people who have gone there, or I use like Reddit where I DM people and then I get to know information because internet is like the one thing that I don't want to like compromise on. So I need like trusted sources telling me like what's like the information there. So that's one. And even with like the internet, I always buy large packs of mobile data because you can never trust like the hostels or like the hotels internet in like the places that you go. So you always need to have like a plan B. So once the internet is covered, accommodation has been again super easy off late with like say the bookings and the hostel worlds of the world. So the reviews are extensive in most of like these listings, but this year onwards, I've been seeing like a lot of fake reviews, which look very real. So just that when I was traveling earlier this year in April, I stayed in pretty much all hostels or properties which had like say almost 5 stars. But once I went there and saw, it didn't really feel like a 5-star property. I saw that there were like things missing and stuff like that, and was wondering why, how can they have like such good ratings? That's when like figured out, okay, probably people are like putting in like fake reviews is how they're able to like do it. So one way that I do check reviews is that I look again for like say trusted sources or like people recommending certain places on either Reddit or like say Wikitravel, and then I cross verify if it's something that's good. So this again is like really important if you're going to stay in like a place for like long durations. But if you're only going to stay for like say 2 days and then like figure out like where you want to go, or if you want to find new accommodation, then you can like take a bet and go. So I do a mix of both. Sometimes I book like an accommodation for 1 month when I'm going somewhere, so that I know exactly where I'm going to be, and I know that I'll find a place with like a desk with like internet connection and like say good lighting, stuff like that, so that I know exactly what my working situation would be. But I also do trips where I'm traveling from one city to another constantly. So there, what I typically do is I only book for like the first 2 nights of the trip. And then once I go there, I settle down and then I figure out, okay, what's the lay of the land? What are like the different places to do? And then I book like for the subsequent nights. So your mileage may vary on whether you want to like plan your trip completely. You want like your accommodation to be sorted before you go there, or you want to go into a place and then you want to like figure out ways to like find your places to sleep. So that's accommodation. The next one is money and what's like the budget. Uh, so this is again a very important factor for me before choosing like a place to travel to. So there aren't like a lot of great places that tell you this is exactly how much it'll cost you. But priceoftravel.com has been like a trusted website for me since like say 2014-15. The prices are fairly accurate, but I would still add a 10% buffer to it. So you can choose what kind of travel do you want to do. Do you want to do something like a budget travel? Do you want to do backpacking travel? Do you want to do like stay in a fancy place? Are you planning to spend money on like nice food? Do you want to drink every day? Do you want to like stay in? Do you want to visit all the museums? So you can choose like your type of indulgence, and like the site will tell you that okay, per day you can expect to spend like say $25 if you're in Vietnam, or it might be like say $50 if you're doing like a very indulgent experience if you're in like say Goa, right? So price of travel is really helpful to get a sense of how much do you end up paying, and they give it on a per day basis, so you'll be able to like do the math yourself on based on how long your trip is for. Now coming to like say managing money, or carrying money, right? Like say if you're in India, UPI works everywhere, it's amazing, you can probably carry cash, your cards, and you're fine. But if you're going out of India is where like money usually is a problem. But thankfully we have like these amazing neobanks like say Fi and Neo, which are really good. I have only been using Fi for like the last 3 years now, and it's basically a debit card where you can just swipe the card or use it in an ATM anywhere in the world, and they will use Google Forex rates and convert and give out money for you, right? So you don't have to worry about extra markup. All you have to do is, since it's a debit card, what I've even done is like just before entering an ATM, I've used PhonePe in like a foreign country, transferred like the money that I want into my Fi account, and then gone into the ATM, withdrew it, and like came out. So it works that seamlessly. You don't even have to like preload it with like all the money. You can even just like use UPI to like send money to it anytime you want. And it has like a nice app. You can like block it whenever you want. You can like check like a log of the transactions, stuff like that. So it's a well-made app. Like both Fi and Neo are like pretty good in this regard. So definitely take them. It's free as well, so they don't charge you to open an account. It's like minimum balance is like 0, so you can definitely like use one to go ahead with it. Shubham was asking about what's like the best credit card for travel. Honestly, I haven't done a lot of research about this, but I know that like there are travel specific cards by all major banks. American Express is what I use primarily because they give you like some free hotel nights and all of that. But I've seen that like American Express only works like say in international sites, or like say for flights for like big ticket items. Like if I go to like a restaurant in Bangalore, they don't even accept American Express. So it's a little useless like that, but it's kind of nice to get lounge access. And then like if you accumulate the points, you do get like a night or two in like a nice hotel. So American Express is what I would recommend, purely because their customer service is great, etc. But I'm sure like the new ones like say Axis and HDFC have like good travel cards. Yes, Shubham.
Phalgun, how much cash should one carry? I mean, what's the minimum amount that you carry?
Oh, okay. So what I do is like I usually do like a math multiple on like I use price of travel. So if I'm saying 30 days in assume Vietnam and price of travel says $25 per day, this is excluding flights. So I just like I budget for 25 into $30, 30. So how much? $750 or something like that. Now I don't always carry all of that. So each ATM transaction has like a limit. Typically, it's around 10,000 rupees or 15,000 rupees. So that is all the money that I put in like my Fi card and I withdraw it. So it's basically there's very little money there. I keep like transferring it via UPI whenever I want. So I don't have to like load it with all the money that I need. So even if I'm like low on money, that's fine. But yeah, so one catch here is Nepal and Bhutan. Like this is very specific advice. So most Indian cards do not work in Nepal and Bhutan. So if you actually flip your card and see, there's like a small disclaimer there that says that this card is not valid for transactions in Nepal and Bhutan, right? So I was once in like a very sticky situation because I went to Nepal. This was like say 7, 8 years ago, and I actually carried like a bundle of notes because my cards wouldn't work there. So there's like no way I could have done that. So I took like a bundle of notes, and there's also a rule that you can't take 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, right? So I took 100 rupee notes. It was like literally like a bundle straight from the bank. I think I took 2. My trip was for like 2 weeks there. My money got over in 3 days. So like Nepal was more expensive than I thought. I basically ran through all of my money, and the only exit alternate option for me was to like take an overnight bus to the border, go to an ATM in India, withdraw money, and then come back. So don't get into situations like that. Definitely like be careful when you're going to like places, especially around India. Some cards do not work. So yeah, things like that can happen. Now the next thing is food. Thankfully, I'm non-vegetarian. I try different kinds of food. So for me, food's not never been a problem because I'm open to trying new things. But I come from a vegetarian family. Most of my family members are vegetarian, and like I see them carrying like a lot of food whenever they travel because they prefer like eating like home food or like stuff that are comfortable with. So you can always research on what are your food options when you go to a place. Happycow.net is like a fairly new site that's been coming up where their USP is that they are a search engine for vegetarian or like vegan food, right? In any new place that you go to. So it's just like a map. It'll show you like all the restaurants where you can like get vegetarian food. So you can like see previously research on whether like the place that you're going to has like food that of your liking, and then you can like make a decision whether you want to go there or not. Again, like food is another thing where I don't usually use Google Map reviews. I don't use like the Zomatos or like the TripAdvisors. I usually ask other travelers, other people that I meet on what's like the best food that they have had, and I just go to those places. That works out well for me because I know that it's coming from like a trusted source, and it's also like it also is like a great conversation starter and like a conversation to have with like people on what's like the good places to like go around and all of that. So yeah, so food is that. And the last one is like living. By living, what I mean is the things that you'll probably be doing in like your hometown. If you want to like do the same things, how do you do that, right? For example, I work out fairly regularly. So these are the things I want to continue doing when I'm in like a place. So finding like a gym or like a place to work out or like finding like an area to run or like finding food. I typically, once I go into like a new place, I find local Instagram pages like handles which are talking only about local news or local listings, and those are the ones that I typically go and like check out. So the other way is obviously like I just ask like the admin staff at like the hostels or the hotels that I'm at on like these things, and they typically help me out. So yeah, that's how I do research on what are the places to go and what are like the things that I can expect there and all that. Cool. Any questions on this particular slide? You can raise your hand or like speak up now. Otherwise, I'll move on to the ones and I'll answer the questions later. All right. Moving on to the next one. Yes.
Phalgun, 1 second. So is it not feasible to carry like say dollars or like bigger value currencies to these places and then get it exchanged over there?
Yes, you can do that, but I've realized that you'll just like lose like a lot of money just for the conversions, because you pay a commission in India to get the dollars, and then once you go there, you'll not get like the best rates either. So instead, the Fi card works out really well. You don't even have to go through the hassle of getting like a forex agent and like convert to USD, because you're doing like the same. It's legit bank rates. There's no markup. So it's actually just like much more convenient to just take the Fi card.
Got it, except when you go to Nepal and Bhutan.
Yeah. I really don't. So okay, so now I did go to Nepal recently, so you can actually carry your 2000 rupee notes, or like say 500 rupee notes now that 2000 isn't there, and people actually accept it. So the next time I went, I just carried 2000 rupee notes, and this time I wasn't broke. So yeah.
Cool.
Phalgun, do we need referrals to get Fi card or what?
You can apply, but I will give you my reference. You can apply by yourself, but I also share my reference.
Cool.
Right. Cool. All right. So now was like the tricky part on like how do you actually work, right? So imagine you've gone into like a place and you've settled down. One pro tip there is I typically try to reach a new place on a Saturday or a Sunday, so that if I reach on any other day, I'll have to start working in the morning, and I'm still not like gotten like comfortable with the new place or like my new location, my new hostel, etc. So I typically try to move to new places, or I even try to travel on like a weekend, so that like the first day or like the first 2 days I have to myself, and I can like get comfortable with like the place. I can walk around, I can find places to eat, I can find places to like say work out of, I can find coffee places. So I'll take like the first 2 days just to like get myself comfortable. So once that is done, once you like say your Monday starts or like your weekday starts, how do you really get into like the groove, right? Anya was like talking about this just before I started talking on how do you really work when you're traveling. So one of the ways, and I've failed at this multiple times, and over it's only like say in the last 3-4 years I've gotten good at it. Like I've realized why I failed also, but the main thing is like you really need to know what your working hours are and you need to stick to that. So you need to have like the discipline to just say that these hours I will find myself a space, either in a cafe, either in the hotel, or either in the hostel that you're at, or in like say a co-working space. I'm going to go there and I'm going to like start working, right? It almost is like you need to live by a calendar, where you're starting, you're probably waking up at a certain time, you're getting your breakfast or like whatever, and then you start like working, right? So unless you push yourself in like that discipline, it's very hard for you to just like adapt to like the new place and like continue with like the same kind of productivity. So it needs that discipline. And you also, what I've found that works really well is that I try to work at a stretch, take a break if I need to, like say if it's sunset time, I really like going to like a beach to watch sunset. So I typically take like that break and then come back to work again. So you really have to like find like the slots in like your day where you're like working so that you can like complete your work, and then like also have time to just explore the place. So the third key thing is the ability to say no. And this is to say no to things around you. The first time I went to Bali, first time in like 2019, I was again on a sabbatical, but I was still like consulting. I was like working on like one project. I had a miserable time working. I just could not get anything done because I was constantly saying yes to anyone around me. Saying, someone would say, hey, do you want to go get a beer? I'd be like, yes. Do you want to go get food? I'd be yes. So you really need to have like the discipline to say no to things when you're working. Otherwise, your schedule is going to get wrecked. You will need to claw that back in, and you'll constantly be thinking about work. It's a mess. So I've realized that just like putting yourself in a place where you don't have like a lot of distractions, or at least you have people around you who are also working, really helps. So in that regard, co-working spaces are brilliant. Co-working spaces are like the best thing that you can do if you're traveling to a new place. Whether even in India you can find co-working spaces or like say co-working cafes. The reason is everyone else will be working. You can like take your calls there, you can work there. And like the best thing is you can also meet other people, right? So when you meet people, you can probably like make friends to like go get dinner with, or it's like say professional connections, like say you can find people that you can like work with or collaborate with, lots of things, because people usually that you find in like these places are very interesting. They are not software engineers. Most of them are not software engineers, and I think software engineers, no offense to any of them, I still consider myself as a software engineer. Like I think we are a very homogenous, boring group of people. We most of us have like the same set of interests and things that we spend time on. So meeting people outside of like your domain, outside of like your professions is like really interesting. So co-working spaces are great. For example, I think I once met a dietitian who was like a digital nomad dietitian. So she would have clients in like her home country, and she'd just like do calls. She'd tell them that, hey, this is like the new diet plan, and that was her work. So you wouldn't meet like say people outside of like your industry otherwise, and it's always helpful to like meet diverse set of people. It kind of really opens up your worldview and like things that you've always thought about. So co-working spaces are great, and some of the good ones around the world also have networking events. So they're very introvert friendly, right? So even if you're a shy person, they have like these events that'll help you like make easy conversations with people. So for example, some of the co-working spaces that I've been to, they have like one of the days of the week, they'll take everyone to like a bar in the evenings, or one of the days they'll take everyone to dinner. Right. And it'll be like usually it's only the new people in the co-working space who would like go there. And then pretty much most people are new. So they'll get to talk to each other and they become friends. So co-working spaces are great. And like I said, routines are like yours. At least for me, those were like the magic wand that worked. Right. I had a very specific routine. Whenever I go, I try to like the first 2 days, I try to find my routine, which is that, okay, I need to wake up at say 6 a.m. I'll probably get my breakfast or coffee, and then I'll take a shower, and then like start working at like say 8 or 9 a.m. Right. So, and then I know that 9 to 12 I'm going to work, and then find my lunch, and then like say work for another 3 hours, go watch the sunset, and then maybe come back, do some more work, and then like go out to dinner. Right. So having like this routine and following it is the one that really helps you get assimilated into like your day, especially on weekdays. And on the weekends, you're free to like do whatever. And it sounds awfully similar to what you'd be doing at home as well, right? So just that you're doing it in a new place. And that is why that was like my first slide. It said that being a digital nomad is basically like living just in like a new environment. So but yeah, it's definitely has its like perks. So yeah, the next one that helps me when I'm like digital nomading is like definitely making friends. The easiest way outside of a co-working space is like your interest groups. If you're into pottery, if you're into yoga, if you're into working out, or if you're into Muay Thai. So always my favorite thing to do is like sign up for like a class for like a week or something, and you'll automatically meet people, and like you have common things to talk about, and then like things take off from there. Like for example, in one of my older trips, like I was working out in the mornings, and we met like a bunch of people together. We used to like go work out at the same time. We became friends so much that like we'd work out and get breakfast together, and then we'd like split ways. Right. So it became like a daily affair. And just because I had friends there, I also was like consistent to like say going to the gym, and then like also waking up on time. So finding a routine is important, especially when you're doing long-term travel. And yeah, so like I said, co-working spaces and hostels are also like great places to make friends. One last heads up is that some countries do have restrictions on like whether you can work remotely or not in that country based on the visa that you have. More often than not, I don't know if it's being recorded, but like I don't want to give like say advice that goes against the laws of the land, but it's really depends on like your risk appetite, whether you want to like give it a shot, whether you want to like work or not on like a visa that you don't on a visa that you have. So some countries are very lax about doing remote work. So even on a tourist visa at immigration, you can say that you're doing remote work. They're okay with it, while some countries are not. So to do this research on whether a certain country allows you to do this or not, is Nomadlist is great for that, and Reddit is really good for that. So you can like do your research based on that and then take it from there. So was that a question? Okay, so one of the things that I do is that if I'm on a tourist visa, I just say that I'm a tourist. so that I don't have like a lot of questions. And then I figure out once I reach our destination on how I'm going to be working there. So yeah, any questions here? Cool. Wait, let's see if there's anything more. Awesome. Cool. Moving on to the next one. Yeah, mistakes. So this is not an exhaustive list of mistakes. I think each trip I do, I make a new mistake. So this is not like a very full-blown list of all the stuff that you need to be like watchful about. But yeah, like some of the things that I did wrong in like my previous trips and like some of the stuff that I would highly recommend is, the first one is like never carry too much stuff, especially when you're like moving from one city to another. Being light always helps. Sometimes you can just like you don't even have to check in your bags. You can just like do cabin, and then you'll be able to like get in and out very quickly. You are able to like not get a cab. You can take like a bus to like say your hotel because you have little luggage. So there's tons of advantages of like being light when you're traveling. And there always will be cases where I've been in situations where I looked homeless basically in like a very fancy place because I didn't have nice clothes. But eventually I realized, okay, I should at least have one pair of nice clothes, and then like the rest of them can wear might make me look homeless. That's fine. But yeah, so eventually you'll really figure out what are the bare essentials that you need to carry. The worst case, what I do is I just like buy something there if I need more clothes, and those are my souvenirs that I bring back home. I'm not into fridge magnets. I know a lot of people try to bring back fridge magnets from like the places that I go to. I instead buy stuff for myself because that acts as a memory from like the place. And even if it's like a little expensive, it's fine. But as long as I'm able to like keep reusing it. So that's one tip that I'd highly recommend. I used to use a 40-liter backpack. I've actually done about 8 weeks of travel in a 40-liter backpack. Only recently I've like slightly upgraded it because I thought, okay, I need like two different pairs of shoes now and all of that. So it's why I've upgraded to like a bigger backpack. But yeah, so you would think that, okay, I need all of these clothes. More often than not, you don't. But then again, it really depends on the kind of travel that you're doing. For example, if you're doing like a bachelor's trip in like Goa, like a bachelorette party in Bali or something, like I'm sure you'll be like going to like nice places. So really think about what is the kind of experiences that you want, what is the kind of places that you want to be going to, and then like dress accordingly, take like the right stuff that you will need. So it again is one of those things where your mileage really varies on like what you want to do. But general advice, pack light. So that's one. And oh shit, like Anya, Shams Eliza is exactly the place where I felt homeless as well. Like that was like the place
They were like, those people were like, all of them looked like celebrities, And I felt like, where am I? I don't want to be here. I felt so low about myself. I can't tell you.
Exactly. Yes, that was exactly the place that I was talking about. It was. So Shams is like this huge street in Paris. I don't know if you've seen like the Arc de Triomphe. It's like this huge block in Paris, which is very popular. So there's one street there which has like the best brands in the world. Like it has really fancy stores. Like even like a regular H&M is probably like the fanciest H&M that you'd go there. It has like all the fancy luxury brands, like the cars and like the Ferraris. All of the showrooms are on that street. And I looked very homeless that day. Like I was, it's so please do your research before you go. It's very important. So cool. All right. Yeah, and one of the other important things that I've realized, is moving between places. Like I said, I typically time my move from one city to another on a Friday or a Saturday. This is so that I get accustomed to the new place and I have some time to like move around, get a feel of the city, etc. So that's why, and I also feel like 4 to 5 days in a single city really helps you get a sense, get a vibe, get a feel of the city, like the people, what's the culture there, what are like the places, stuff like that. So for me personally, that's like my sweet spot because of like the reasons why I primarily travel as well is because I really am into like understanding like the culture of a place. So but then again, for you, for each one, it might be different. So but I definitely think that 4 to 5 days, even if it's in a place in India, like if I go to Calcutta, I want to like spend at least like say 4 to 5 days before I say that okay, I've been to Calcutta. So that's like my recommendation. So spend as much time. It'll also take away the stress of moving, traveling from city to city. You will wake up in like the same place. You can even choose to go to the same breakfast place that you're going to. You'll become friends with the people there. But if you're traveling every day, right, it's about finding like a new thing. You'll have to get adjusted to the new place, and there's also like the work related anxiety that you'll already have, so that makes it very, very bad. So just to give you an example, I was on like a trip, not recently, maybe like 2 years ago, where I was constantly on the move. Every day I was on the move. This was in Arunachal Pradesh. I was actually riding. I had rented a bike. I'd wake up at 5 every day, take an hour to get ready. I would ride for about 5 hours. And around 11, I would like get into like a new place, find like find like a place to stay, settle in, and then start working. And honestly, it was so bad that I was supposed to be doing this for 1 week. After the fourth day, I just like cut it short and like went back because it was just not working at all. So I would say that like traveling every day can be really stressful. So you really need to be sure on like why you're doing it, and if you're doing it, how you're going to like work around it. So that's one. And the third one is food. No matter, I've each person again like differs on whether you like Indian food or like you want like certain comfort food that you want to carry or not. I've realized that my breaking point is 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, I just need some Indian food in me. So what I've done is I take some ready to eat packets of like say MTRs or stuff like that, and once I crave Indian food is when I'll just like go make it myself and like eat it. Feels great. And if I don't use it, I usually give it away to people as gifts, because Indian food is so popular around the world. I'm sure even in India, like some South Indian food is popular in North India and stuff like that, that people really appreciate it, that they just want to try it, right? So this has probably been like my greatest hack that I've discovered, to just like give away like these ready to eat packets from home, and people really appreciate it. So either you can use it yourself, or if you're like not using it, you can always like give it to people. So that's that's one. And another thing that I'm usually very bothered about is being scammed. I one of my earliest trips when I did in college, I got badly scammed in Kerala, and since then I've been traumatized about not getting scammed anymore. That I do like extensive research on what are the popular tourist scams, what are like the ways that people like hoodwink you, like how do you ensure that you don't get fleeced by a taxi, stuff like that. So again, Reddit is great. They have separate threads in these subreddits on what are the popular tourist scams in a certain country, so you can like research and then like read up and then like do that. The next thing is that especially when you're traveling solo, you will have bad days. By bad days, it can mean like a lot of different things. Like the first time I was ever doing it, like I said, it was for 5 weeks, and there were 2 days in those 33 days or 35 days where I absolutely spoke to no one. I just didn't make any friends, and I felt very lonely though in those 2 days. So you just have to know that like the next day is going to be different, and it's going to like start as like a new day. And it was fine. Like it happened at 2 separate days. It was not like 2 straight days. So you will have bad days. You have to just like accept it and know that like the next day is going to start afresh, and you can always like handle it. So yeah, the last one is insurance and falling sick. Do not risk falling sick. Do not risk traveling without an insurance. I have thankfully not ever needed to use my insurance, but it's always such a nice mental peace to have, to know that if something goes wrong, you have insurance, right? So most countries, like being in India, we really take our medical care for granted. Like our medical care prices are really low. Even in like some third world countries, I've seen like the prices being at least 5 times that of India, right? Even to just like get a fever medicine or like to get a cold medicine, you have to spend like a bomb. So carry your own meds that you're comfortable with, that you know that works for you, so that you don't have to like spend a lot of money or like go to places where you might not even know the language, and you'll have to ask them for like medicine, right? So you don't want to be in like places like that, situations like that. So yeah, those would be like the last two. And just to give you a sense of like this was like from a few years ago. On the picture on the right side, this was like the stuff that I was carrying for like a 3-week trip. Now I think I actually carry a fewer things than this, I think. But yeah, you don't, and all of this fit in like a 40-liter backpack with more space to be left. So you can easily fit in stuff without feeling like, okay, you're not missing anything. Worst case, you can always like buy stuff there, I guess. So yeah. Cool. All right. So moving on to the next one. Yes, this is like pretty much like the last slide, I think. Yeah, so see, there's one thing that I tell everyone, that travel solo, but also know that you might hate it. It's not necessary that everyone must like travel or like must like solo travel. It's very romanticized in literature and movies and all of that, but like each person is different. Some people might just like hate traveling. My dad hates traveling. So you really need to know, you need to be open to it, like in the sense that you might hate it. You might find that, okay, it's like a terrible way of living and I want to cut it short. So start small. Go for like a nearby trip by yourself if you want, or like go to a nearby place where you like go spend a week or two to like try out the whole digital nomad experience. Start small, learn what worked, what didn't, and then like fix it before you make like a huge investment into like say a big trip or something. So yeah, like that's how I did as well. Like when I wanted to do my first Euro trip, I was doing it solo. In hindsight, it was like a stupid decision because I'd never traveled solo, and I'm trying to go to like a new continent where like in some of the countries the languages is also not common, and I'm doing it solo, like without internet on my phone. So what I did once everything was sorted, I actually took like a weekend trip to go to Hampi in Karnataka itself, to just see that, okay, will I even survive just by myself, right? And I did. So that gave me a little bit of confidence, and that's how I was able to like also do like my Euro trip. So start small, always worth it to not make expensive mistakes. And over time, I've realized that solo travel, though it's like amazing, personally, I love it. I've realized that like traveling with a friend or traveling with more people is so much more cheaper. You can actually find like a better Airbnb that you're sharing, and it's like a much more luxurious place. You'll have like so many more things in like your house. You might probably even have like a kitchen that you can like cook in and all of that. So traveling with a group is not actually bad. Like if you're doing long-term travel, actually traveling with a friend really works out cheaper and better. The next one is budgeting. Flights typically end up being like the most biggest chunk in like your travel budget or like trip budget, especially if your travel duration is less than 2 weeks. Anything more, usually like your daily expenses kind of exceed like your flight tickets. So one of my favorite sites to find like better flights is Google ITA Matrix. Not a lot of people know about it. Like even Google somehow doesn't like talk about this site too much. One of the things that they do really well is you can even like add nearby airports, and you can also like say if you have flexibility on when you want to travel, if there's like a plus or minus 1 day, you can actually do that. And it has like the highest amount. It scores every single website out there. It's Google, right? Like they have all the websites. Skyscanner, on the other hand, has very similar features, but Skyscanner doesn't like automatically pull out every single airline carrier there. They only have a few. So what I typically do is I set up alerts for like prices on Skyscanner, and Google Flights is where I find like say new paths to like say travel, find cheaper flights, etc. But I always end up booking my flights on Make My Trip or one of those sites. Just to finding flights, I use these two websites. And another one is investing in like good gear, travel gear. Kind of pays off over time. It might be expensive initially, but over time it definitely helps. Like to give you an example, one of the backpacks I bought it 10 years ago. It was fairly expensive at that time, but it lasted me 10 years. So it was like totally worth it because I didn't have to keep like upgrading like my backpack every 3-4 years, or like I did that mistake with my shoes, and some of my hiking gear, I was able to do it fine, but I would say that investing in like good quality gear definitely pays off in the longer run. So do consider that. And the next step is about not planning too much. But then again, it really depends on like your style. I have traveled with friends who wanted to plan everything to the dot, while I am someone who only plans or like books accommodation for the first 2 days, and then I like just figure out what to do on the way. So there are pros and cons to both of them. Like the biggest pro to planning everything is that you can save a lot of money because you're booking ahead of time and you know exactly where you're gonna be, and it might reduce like a lot of stress for you. But for me, especially when I'm traveling solo, I really want to change my plans on the fly. Maybe that I met someone, they said some great things, so I want to like go check that place out, stuff like that. So I really want to keep that opportunity open, is why I don't plan too much. And if I like a place too much, I would rather just like stay there like for enough amount of time before I move to the next place. So I usually leave room for serendipity. And as like a traveler, this is like, I guess, I don't know if it's like a travel related tip, but it's probably a life tip that you need to be open to new experiences, conversations, and say, especially culture shocks, because you're going to constantly like find them. And the seventh one is again, something that I learned very late in my life, that there's always going to be like some new fancy place that I want to go, some new Instagram that you reel that you saw, which makes this new place look very enticing. But there isn't enough time to do everything. There's always going to be more things. Just like there's so many books in the world and you can't read all of them. So you need to be choosy about like the kind of books that you're reading. I'd say the same thing applies to travel. You need to be choosy about the kind of places that you're going. So even if you go to like say a city, it doesn't mean that you have to do everything. You can always choose what is the ones that you want to spend time with. And my motto is that I can always go back to a place if I like it. And I've done that. Like some of the countries at this point, I don't even count the number of countries that I go to. I just want to go to a place just because I liked it. There have been multiple countries where I've gone back purely because I've liked it. Like to give an example, I've gone to Bali 3 times now. I've gone to Thailand twice. Like I hate Thailand, but like yeah. Another place was like Vietnam. I loved Vietnam, so I went back in 3 months. So you can always go back just because you've loved it. Like again, it's probably like my personal preference. I'd rather do things that I like rather than exploring new things each time. So again, something, your mileage might vary, so do things that you really like. And right after coming back after like a long travel, this is something that I've been seeing in so many people. You'd either want to like quit your job and try to do something and travel, or you're like, I want to quit my job and travel like full time. Everyone goes through this phase. Give it 3 weeks, it'll die down, right? So this isn't just, but like seriously, I've seen it happen so many times that you just need like a reality check once you come back after like a really long trip. So yeah, I think yes, that's pretty much it. Any questions, guys? I'm just looking at like the chat here. Amit Bihar gaya tha, like Patna. I think I called you when I went there to ask where is the best chart. I had like a 4-hour layover.
It is in Katihar.
Yeah, Katihar. Yeah. No, I just went to Patna and I asked him for like tips. So
You should have
yeah,
asked me. I've lived there for 12 years.
oh really? Oh shit. Okay, next time.
You really want to go back?
Yeah, like the food was okay. It was interesting. Like just the city is so chaotic that I had so much time. I was like so free. I was just like walking very chill, so it felt good. Yes, and who else owned Trains at a Glance? I don't know about it, but one of my favorite travel books is Around India in 80 Trains. This was like written by like this Indian origin London-based author. Like, you know how like this movie and book Around the World in 80 Days is there? So she came to India and traveled across India in 80 different trains, right? Like she took like this Maharaja Express, which is like the most premium train. She took like one of the Garib Raths, sat in like like the third class coaches, and like she went in through that. So it was like damn eye-opening for me personally, because it gave me like an insight into, okay, this is what people can do if you're like traveling unhinged. So that's one of my favorite books around India in 80 trends. I've never written to authors of the books that I've read, but like she was the only one that I've ever written an email to, and she actually got back to me. So I this was again like more than like 10 years ago, something that's that I cherish a lot. And Amit asks, how has travel shaped your personality over the years? I think it's hard to answer in like a single thing. It's definitely like changed a lot of things, but yeah, I think it travel is not just, for me, travel is not just like when I leave the city, it's also like from within the city. You can be a tourist or a traveler within your own city. So that's something. And married with one kid, Papa, like I think unfortunately I don't have like advice for this. Maybe you should ask other couples who have been doing it. That's what I've seen like my brother do. So yeah, outside of that, I think Reddit actually helps. Like I've seen people ask questions there saying like, can I travel with a kid, with a toddler, or like say if I'm using a wheelchair, stuff like that.
I think they'll all say don't travel. I have so many friends. The one answer is don't travel, let them grow first.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, Ritika asks, how do you prepare yourself for a trek? Oh, okay. So this is hard. I fairly stay physically active, so I don't do any extra prep. I try to run like a 5K in 30 minutes every 10 days or 15 days. So that's like my fitness test that I have to submit when I do like an organized trek. So that kind of takes care of it. But usually the other preparation is thinking about what are the stuff that I need to carry and things like that, because you don't want to be stuck in like mad rain and all your clothes are wet. So those are the things that I usually like think more about on how to not ruin my trek by just like poor planning. And I can actually share some links. Like India Hikes is my favorite trekking community. They have like really nice blog posts on what are the things that you need to carry and what are the things that you need to like watch out for before and on the trek. So India Hikes has like really good material content on that one. And Amit has a lot of Nepali rupees, guys. So please ask him if you want to like convert some money. And so these are favorite place, Sushant. Oh, so hard to say. I think favorite country is still India. Favorite place, still very hard to say. I think there's so many. Bunch of them. In India, Auroville is one of my favorite places. Goa is another favorite place. I think Kashmir also, okay, not Kashmir. I would say Auroville and Goa are like my two favorite places in India. And oh yeah, Chai Chai is like one book that I read back then. I don't think I was a big fan, but it was interesting. Oh wait. No, I did like it. It was about all the train stations in India, if I'm not wrong. It was about all the junctions, right? So Nana, like
Yeah, all
this
the
book, yeah. No, it
dry
was a
places
lovely
also.
book.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a lovely book. So again, another book related to trains. So this person, there are about 8 junctions or like around that railway junctions in India. So one fun fact is that any train that goes through that station has to stop in a junction. So that's why there are any person living in that city, right, essentially has access to any part of the country just because they're staying in like that junction. So there are 2 junctions in Uttar Pradesh. There's one near Kuntakal, that's the closest to Bangalore. There's one in the south. So they're like all in like different places. So this author, he went to all of these junctions just to see, because there's a junction, how did that city evolve? What is like the economy around it? So very interesting book. I definitely loved reading about that. And okay, moving on to Chandni Chowk. Actually haven't been there so much. Why is Garib Rath called Garib Rath? I think it's because they have like cheap tickets, Arvind. I'm also not sure. I haven't actually traveled in one. The base camp trek. Yes, the base camp trek. I'm not sure what is this like a question on Anup, but the Everest base camp trek is something that I'm extremely happy about, because that was the first trek that I did where it was just me and my friend. We did not have a guide. We did not have a porter. We just like booked everything ourselves. We just walked. We found like the way ourselves. So it's called alpine style trekking, where you just like find your own path to like the destination. So it's not that like we went through shrubs and like tried to like make our own path. The roads are like very clearly laid out. There are like lodges on the way. There's like tea houses on the way. I even spent my birthday on the trek. I drank wine at like say some 14,000 feet. It's crazy. Nepal trekking economy is like very, very advanced. In India, it's much more harder to trek alpine style than in like say popular places like Nepal. Cool. Okay. Any other questions? I think I've gone through all of the chat. Wait, one more. Any horrible situations happened in anywhere outside India? Let me see. I've actually, thankfully, been fairly lucky with it. I don't think so. I'm trying to think hard. Max, I would have been just like scammed, or I would have to pay extra for like a cab ride. But thankfully, nothing happened. Like no one tried to attack me. No one tried to like rob me. I think I've just been like careful about it. I think common sense really like helps in avoiding like say bad things happening to you. So I guess that's all I could say. Like probably like the most horrible thing that's happened to me was, I'm trying to think, maybe I've missed a train or something. No, even that's not happened. Yeah, like I've honestly been very lucky. I think like the most that's happened is like I've just been scammed for like heavier prices and stuff. So that's about it. Or I probably paid like a lot of money for like something cheap. Shubham is asking, when are you writing a travel book? I've realized that I prefer like say short form travel, like writing of like say certain incidents that happen when I'm traveling rather than like a book. So I'm going to probably stick to that. I used to be a blogger at one point. I don't do it as much now, but yeah. Cool, guys. I think I was hoping to finish this in 30 minutes because there was only 10 slides, but thanks for bearing with me. If there are no other questions, we can all end the call. Yeah, hopefully this was helpful. I'm happy to always help if you have any questions regarding travel. Please feel free to like DM me, ask me questions. I'm trying to like document more of my trips, especially travel guides, because I've realized that even for me, those are like the same kind of questions I keep getting. So I'm trying to document more and more. Yeah. So thank you. Thanks, Sunana.
Thank you so much, Phalgun. This was great.
It was really nice.
Quite helpful, yeah.
Actually, you should share it with everyone because the websites and all you mentioned, right? So everyone can probably take a note. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
See
you,
guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.